Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Still feeling like I'm scrambling to get some more Easter projects made, even though Easter's coming up this weekend. But I had bought and shown so many Easter themed goodies over the last month or two that I've been just dying to use. So this morning I had the little monkeys with me in my little stamp area and sat down and colored all of these pretty pink posh Easter Friends images that I stamped onto some Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. And I used Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink, and I put them all in my mini MISTI so that I could stamp all of the images from the set all at once. And then while we were sitting in here, I colored them all in with my Copic markers. So I've put all the colors I used on the side here, and then I super sped this up. It actually didn't take that long. I think to do all of these images, it took me maybe half an hour, roughly. I didn't do really any fancy coloring, just the same color combo I always use for the skin. Working from darkest to lightest because that's kind of my lazy way of blending everything. It just goes smoother. Smoother and faster, that's my motto. So I colored everything in. I started with the skin, I did the hair. The hair I kept insanely simple. I used one color for each set of hair and just kind of lightly feathered it on and then left it. I didn't want to spend a whole ton of time doing all of these. And then for all the the bunny ears and the bunny costume and the bunny, I kept them all simple and just added some grays, just very, very lightly because I wanted them to be more white than anything else, but just added the grays in for a little bit of definition. And then once I was done with that, I added in a little bit of the same pink I used for the little people's cheeks onto the bunny, and then added a little bit of light pink to their ears that, again, I kind of feathered it in, and then I went back with my colorless blender just to smooth it out a little bit more. That's something I've said a lot lately is when it comes to coloring, I'm usually more heavy-handed. I love seeing other people's images that have a lot of white to them, a lot of really light coloring. I seem to struggle the most with that. I always want to make everything a lot darker, blend the entire image, color into every little nook and cranny, and yet I really like the look of things when they just kind of fade off into white. It just gives it more definition, I think. Plus, I do think it takes more skill. So anyway, I still just did my thing and kept these fairly simple. I used a fair bit of markers, but I used the same colors for same things, like her little dress I used for his little bow tie. And then I used the lighter yellow was the same yellow I'm using here on the basket. And then the same colors I used for his suit, I used on the bows, etc. One, it just keeps everything streamlined, and two, then they all obviously coordinate, and then I don't also have to have 10 times more markers sitting out. I do have a ton of them, but you don't need all of them. I know, shocker, I actually do not own every single Copic marker. I'm very close after 10 or 12 years, however long it's been since I started getting them, but I don't own all of them. So anyway, I chose colors though that were matching to the Doodlebug Easter Express paper because that's what I planned on using. I actually originally planned on just making cards with these, but then from the thumbnail, obviously you can tell I ended up making tags instead of cards. So after I colored everything in, I went over the eggs and the bunny outfits and all that with my Spectrum Noir Clear Sparkle Overlay pen, just to add that fun sparkle shimmer that is so subtle and hard to catch on camera, but I always like to turn on the flashlight on my phone because then you can really see the sparkle that it adds, and yet it's so subtle. I can't live without this one. I really love it, and it is a very just clear. I don't use the Wink of Stella. I rarely reach for it because the Wink of Stella is more of a gold shimmer, whereas this one is a more clear to a cool toned, almost silver shimmer. So I like adding that to my images. So there you can see the fun little sparkle it gives to that. So once I did that, I wanted to also add a little bit of fun to her dress. So I just grabbed my Uniball white paint or white gel pen and added little white polka dots to her dress. Just super, super simple and cute. And I love how when you add white gel pen to Copic images, it just makes everything pop a little bit more. So I did that, and then I got the coordinating die set for this stamp set, and I'd already cut all the dies apart, and I'm going to tape them all into place with washi tape. I've used micropore tape, you could use painter's tape, whatever works. When I'm using something like washi tape, I try to make sure I don't let any of it go over the image itself, because there's a chance when it goes through the Big Shot machine, it presses it very heavily onto the paper, and I don't want to tear the actual images I spent all the time coloring. But washi tape works really good for taping your dies into place. So I taped all of the dies into place, ran them through my machine, and then ran it through a few more times for that little egg-shaped die, and die cut everything. And then while I had my Big Shot out, I grabbed some pale aqua cardstock. This is a snow cone from My Favorite Things. And I used the Simon Says Stamp large tags die and ran that through twice. So I end up with 4 tags here. And then I cut down some green cardstock, just some scraps of green. And I'm just running the bottoms of these dies through because they've got slightly curved edges. The one is more curved than the other. But just to save me from having to trim with my scissors to get everything to line up, it was just quicker to run these through first with those tag dies. And then I'm going to run them through a second time with one of the dies from the Lawn Fawn Simple Grassy Hillsides die set. And by fiddling, I realized I could just die cut 2 of those tags at the same time with one die. The die actually comes in a set of 3. They're like at different angles. But I just wanted to use one. So I did all that. And then I cut down some of the patterns from the Doodlebug Easter Express pack. And same thing, cut those with the large tag dies. And I die cut 4 of those. Those are going to go on the back of all of these tags, which I'll show in a few minutes. So I did all that and technically thought I was kind of done with all my die cutting here. So I got everything laid out how I wanted it. So I've got my little like scenes starting to be created here on all my tags. I laid out all the characters that how I wanted to use them. I knew I'd be able to get 4 tags easily with all these characters from the stamp set. So got everything laid out, and as I was looking at them, I'm like, you know, it would look really cute if there were some little clouds since I'm creating a scene basically. So I grabbed another scrap of white cardstock this time, and I'm running it through with the Puffy Cloud Borders die, just one of the smaller dies from that Lawn Fawn set. And I die cut some of these strips of white cardstock with that. And then this time ran the tops of the tag dies through. You could do either or, like the grass part, I did the tags first and then the grass die. And the clouds, I did the clouds first and then the tag die. It doesn't really matter, whatever floats your boat. But it just cut the tops off nicely, and then they've got a nice stitched cloud edge as well, which is super fun. So I did that, so I had 4 pieces to cover all these tags. So then my scenes are basically created, so it was just a matter of adhering everything together. So I adhered all of the white cloudy tops to all of the tags, and then all of the little grassy bottoms to all of the tags, and then glued the pattern paper to the back of all of the tags. So I use my Tombow Mono Multi, and I've said this a lot recently, use a really, really light hand with this, like you can barely see it on the pattern paper there. Barely any glue at all. Very, very thin. It looks like it's skipping, really. You don't need a solid line of adhesive, barely any. And then that will prevent it from warping. So I adhered all the tags, and then I started lining up the tags in my MISTI again so I can stamp a sentiment. This For You is from the new Pretty Pink Posh Everyday Greeting set. So I lined it up with the first tag and used the little image that I'm going to add to see where I'm going to be able to fit the sentiment. And for the first tag, it fit perfectly. And then I realized for the second tag, it wasn't going to fit on a line the way the sentiment was intended to be. So I cut it apart so that the For and the U were 2 separate stamps now. And then lined these up on the side of this tag because they wouldn't have fit across because of the size of this little bunny costume image. And then I was using my MISTI for all this because almost all the sentiments I ended up having to stamp at least twice to get them as black as I wanted, and because I was missing spots because I wasn't pressing properly. So after going to all that die cutting work and everything else, it helped me to use my MISTI. And then for this tag, I was able to just butt the sentiment back the way it was intended to be and stamp it there. So I kind of created a little bit more work for myself with all the sentiments having to move the tags and replace the sentiments for every single tag, but using the MISTI for this just made it a little bit easier anyway. So I got it all stamped, and then this part went quickly. I just flipped the tags over and I'm stamping the little Happy Easter sentiment that comes with the Easter Friends stamp set. So I lined that up with the first tag, inked it up, ended up stamping it twice, and I did that for every single piece because I was stamping it onto that pattern paper, so I really wanted the sentiment to kind of stand out. So inked up the stamp twice, stamped it twice, and then just kept putting in each tag and doing it over and over again. So this went really, really quickly. So got all of these stamped. So once all the stamping of the sentiments is done, I can adhere all of the little elements to the tag. So some of the elements I glued down, like the little eggs and the Easter basket, I just glued with my Tombow Mono Multi. And then all these little characters, I just popped up with some foam tape and dimensionals to pop them up a little bit, just for a little extra something. And once I got everything adhered to these, I want to finish these off with some baker's twine. So I've got some Doodlebug baker's twine in my stash and just chose some various colors and tripled up all the twine and then folded it in half, pushed it through the hole of the tag, and then you just pull it through, open up that loop, pull the ends through, and then you've got your finished little tags. So these were really fun to make and they're so cute. These images are adorable. I love Pretty Pink Posh stamps. So if you're interested in any of them, I will have links below the video to my blog post with links to all the supplies used at different online sources. So you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate your guys' support, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye.